This next fly I'm going to do is another brilliant general pattern. Okay, it is meant for a specific occasion, i.e. when caddis are emerging. But if there's no caddis emerging, do try this pattern. It's worth a shot any time. And it's Roman Moser's balloon caddis. Now, in the dressing, it involves a lot of this stuff, Polycelon. And he ties this in so that the Polycelon acts and looks like the expanding thorax of a caddis that's just on the point of emergence. And it's a bit of a double whammy really, because not only does it copy the expanding shuck of the caddis, but it makes the fly virtually unsinkable. So it's a great pattern to use in fast riffly water, almost in white water. It'll still float. It floats like a cork does, this pattern. I always have some in my fly boxes. It's a must-have pattern. So I'm going to show you now how to tie it. So we're going to do it on a 12. You can tie them literally any size you want, but I'm going to do it on a 12. L3A in the vise, and again a wide gape hook. Flatten the barb. I'm going to tie with Moser Power Silk. What else? You can use either olive or brown. I'm using olive. Make the thread catch. Parky thread about, well, not quite halfway down. About a little bit more than a third of the way down. Get your yellow Polycelon and cut off a strip for this size 12. Cut off a strip about 5mm wide and about an inch long. Now, offer your Polycelon up and catch it in. And now spiral forwards and crush this down. Look for where the underside of the eye is and crush this down. And remember to crush down progressively, because power silk will slice through foam if you're not careful. And once you've got a ring of thread going, you're fairly safe, so that when you fold that back, all you see is the eye of the hook. So now come back and crush down the rest of this Polycelon. And it should crush down neatly. And if it rotates on you like that, don't worry at this stage. It soon won't. And now you're ready to dub the abdomen. So I'm going to use this nice sparkly SLF dubbing for the body. So support it with your fingers over the top and go in with your dubbing picker and pick out a goodly amount of SLF on your dubbing picker. And now just knock this on. This scarf's on beautifully, does this stuff. And now wind on this abdomen, and I'll make it double layered. So make a nice short abdomen, don't go round the bend. Make it fairly tubby. Just tighten that bit in there. When you get to there, parky thread. You can see the proportion of abdomen to thorax is, well, it's not quite 50-50. There's probably a little bit more abdomen than there is thorax, calling the yellow part where the thorax is. So the next material to go in is the deer hair wing, and he doesn't specify which deer, so any you want to choose really, I suppose. Whitetail, coastal, any of them. And take off a little clump of hair. I'm using this straight fibred stuff. Now I've got to stack this. Before I stack it, what I'll do, I'll just comb out any underfur. So I'll go in with my 1/2 millimetre comb and comb out the underfur, because if I don't do that, it won't stack. And now drop this clump in the stacker. And just give this a wrap on the table. And when you do this on the wife's best table, make sure she's not in, otherwise you're going to get her right rollicking. Just shake them about a bit, let all the fibres jostle about. And what that will do, that should align the fibres. They should all be even, should those tips, which they are. And then one more trade of grips, that's all. That's to put it in the correct hand for offering it in. And what I'm doing now, I'm looking at it with a view to the actual amount. And I've got about 5 times too much here. Well, I've got twice as much, actually. So if you've got too much, just peel them out from the bottom like that. That way you don't upset the stack. There's about enough now. And if you've... The point about it is, you see, that if you've upset the alignment of them, it's not a big deal. You just simply drop them back in your stacker and jolt them up again. And this time they should be just right. So offer them up. There's the wing, and I position it just so that it's beyond the bend of the hook by about so much. 2 or 3 mil, 3 mil. Now trade grips. Come in with this hand and grip there. And now come round with a pinch and loop, upward pull and crush down. Do that again, upward pull, crush down. Again, crush down. Again, crush down. And what I'm doing, I'm progressively tightening that down. I don't want the power silk to slice through those deer hair fibres, which it's capable of doing. Now what I do, with my thumb or fingernail, I just coax the fibres to just rotate slightly down the side. I want to make essentially a semicircle of deer hair fibres, all encircling right down to, if you like, the horizontal level, or the, let's call it the lateral line, if you like, of the fly. So there's nothing sticking down below, they're all on the same plane. If there is any sticking down below, I might just trim them. So now, having made sure that it's quite secure, you can now take your blade and come round and trim all these butts off. So just slide the blade in down by the side of the Polycelon and just go all the way round and trim off the waste butts. And now that looks pretty good to me. So I'll just consolidate that with a few more wraps. The last thing to do is to bring the Polycelon over, the actual balloon, the bubble, pull back like that, and hold the deer hair wing as well. Circle round, make a fairly soft loop, and then just crush down. And remember, this stuff the power silk will slice through foam like a hot knife through butter, so crush down progressively. Once you've got 4 or 5 wraps around, you can put more tension on. And then finally, lift the tag up, slide under, pull slightly and snip. And I'll just take that little flange off there and that little flange off there. That usually tames any splaying fibres, does this sheath of Polycelon. And then all you have to do now is to come round with 2-finger whip finish right there where you tied your Polycelon down. Close to, pull out, pull up, and the job's done. So that's the lateral view, and I suppose a slight underside view of the blown caddis. And if I rotate it like that to the camera, that's what I was talking about earlier when I was thumbing the fibres down. That's the semicircle effect of the deer hair tips, and nothing coming down beyond the centre line. So they're all finishing more or less on the centre line. So you get this nice radiating halo effect of deer hair fibre tips. Don't think of the balloon part, the Polycelon, as being the head of the fly, because if you think of it like that, what you'll finish up doing is making a small head. Think of it as being half the fly, the thorax, and it's the thorax that's been blown up by internal gases or whatever just before the fly splits on the central suture and escapes. So it's meant to look, from the underside, it's meant to look like a splitting thorax. This is another a really good bring 'em up pattern, and it's worth a try. It's worth tying half a dozen of these in various colours and sizes. It's worth its place in any fly box. It's a great river pattern, and it's a good lake pattern.